For centuries, there's been an ancient practice, one so powerful and transformative that it was intentionally hidden. Not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. Imagine it, an ancient key lost in time, able to open the most sacred gateway, the memory of your soul. This technique doesn't introduce anything new. Instead, it removes the layers of things forced upon us. The biggest trick wasn't making us ignorant, but making us believe we were something we're not. What if today, you remembered your true purpose? What if instead of looking outside, you found a voice within you that has always been there? And what if that voice could be awakened by a practice once reserved for a select few, carefully protected from those who would twist it for control? This video isn't just a story. It's an invitation, a guide to a practice that was kept hidden. Not because it's dark, but because it shines too brightly. Those in power fear an awakened soul more than an army of sleepers. In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the roots of this practice, its origins in forgotten wisdom, why it was suppressed, changed, or mocked by systems that prefer us unaware, and how you can use it to remember who you really are. Not just your identity or story, but your vibration, your true consciousness. We'll use stories, symbols, and ancient wisdom to break down complicated ideas and return to what truly matters. This isn't just a lesson, it's an experience you can feel, activate, and most importantly, remember. So if you're ready to look beyond the surface, question what you've been told about yourself, and move toward what your soul has always known, this video might just be the spark you need. Forbidden doesn't always mean dangerous. Sometimes it just means the truth is too powerful to be shared openly. Nearly every ancient culture shares a similar belief. That humans have forgotten who we really are, that life as we know it is like a dream, a veil keeping us from our true selves, and there are paths designed to awaken that sacred memory. But here's the catch. These practices aren't found in history books, schools, or organized religions. They were hidden, banned, or twisted into superstitions. Mocked and locked away so no one could access their real power. For example, in ancient Egypt, priests performed secret initiation rituals where newcomers experienced a symbolic death. Their bodies would rest for hours while their consciousness was guided through subtle spiritual realms by a master. When they returned, they were changed. They had crossed the veil and remembered. In ancient Greece, the Orphic schools believed the soul was trapped in the body, not in a negative sense, but as part of a purification process. They taught chants, breathing, and trance states that freed the soul temporarily from its earthly identity and allowed it to glimpse its divine origin. They said this experience was revealing and irreversible. In ancient India, the rishis or wise seers spoke of smarana, the act of remembering what the soul already knew. To them, spiritual ignorance wasn't about missing information, but about being disconnected. The path back wasn't about learning more, but unlearning, detaching internally, practicing silence, and aligning vibrations to bring consciousness back to its original state. Despite different methods, the essence of the technique was always the same. It wasn't about learning something new, it was about reconnecting with the spiritual memory deep inside. Then came the darkness. Religious wars turned spirituality into a tool for control, and the rise of external authority overshadowed inner truth. What was once a path to remembrance became empty rituals, rigid dogma, or heresy. The techniques were scattered, symbols hidden in myths, and the core teachings sealed off as dangerous. Dangerous to whom? To the systems that want to keep you in the dark. Because once a soul remembers its true nature, it can no longer be controlled. Today, this knowledge is returning, not as something new, but as a memory waking up in those ready to receive it. And the most incredible part is that this so-called forbidden technique has always been within you, hidden in the deepest parts of your consciousness, waiting for you to discover it. To truly understand this forbidden practice, we need to rethink something. The soul doesn't need to learn who it is. It needs to remember. This memory doesn't come from thinking, but from a vibration, a specific frequency. When that frequency activates within you, everything that is false begins to dissolve, and what is true shines through like a quiet light. But how do you reach that frequency? The forbidden technique is not a set of words or an external ritual. It's an internal process, a series of steps that align your body, mind, energy, and consciousness, until your soul's memory appears, not as an idea, but as a living experience. Imagine your soul as a perfect melody, but it's covered by layers of noise, interference, external beliefs, past traumas, and conditioning. This technique acts like a tuner. It doesn't add anything new. It simply removes the blockages, polishes, and brings everything into harmony. As it does, the original melody begins to play once again. This technique consists of 3 main phases, and while they don't necessarily occur in a strict order, all are essential. The first phase is deprogramming the false self. This is the hardest and first step. It involves identifying the voices inside you that aren't truly yours. Thoughts you've accepted without question. Masks you wear without realizing it. You need to observe carefully. What are you thinking? What do you want? What are you afraid of? And ask yourself, is this really mine, or was it placed on me by someone else? This technique teaches you to clear out old mental habits, not by fighting them, but by seeing them clearly. What wasn't built from your true self can be dismantled by your true self once you become aware. The second phase is activating your inner sense. As the noise fades, something you've always had but rarely noticed begins to emerge. This inner sense isn't logical or emotional, it's direct perception. You don't force it awake. You tune into it. The technique helps you awaken this sense through mindful breathing, silent rituals, being fully present in your body, and visualizing symbols. An important idea here is that what you imagine with focus and devotion, your soul accepts as real. This imagination isn't fantasy, it's a bridge. The symbols used, like an inner flame, a heart's lotus, or a soul's mirror, aren't invented. They are universal images that awaken ancient memories. When used properly, they don't create ideas but awaken inner visions, experiences, and reconnections. The third phase is resonance with your true name. Deep spiritual traditions speak of the soul's hidden name. Not a word spoken aloud, but a unique vibration. This technique teaches that every being has a sacred frequency. When you call it correctly, not with words but by embodying a certain state, you instantly recognize it. It's like a door that has been closed for centuries suddenly opening. You don't remember with your mind, but with your vibration. You feel a powerful certainty. This is me. I've always been this way. I just forgot. This process doesn't happen overnight. It requires dedication, honesty, and commitment. But once it begins, something irreversible happens. Part of you starts to observe from a deeper, calmer, and more real place. That's when the true journey starts. As the technique takes effect and the layers of the false self weaken while your inner vibration clears, something beyond words occurs. Your soul remembers without thinking. It's like a light turning on in a room you've always had but never explored. What appears aren't ideas but presences. Parts of you waiting to be seen. The you who loves unconditionally, trusts without fear, and knows without needing to learn. At this stage, awakening becomes real and tangible. The soul starts recognizing its origins. But there's a quiet warning. Not everything you discover is light. When you remember who you are, you also recall who you're not. Mistakes, unfinished choices, and unhealed wounds will come up. This is a crucial part of the process. It's not punishment, but freedom. You can't embrace your entire soul without facing your shadow too. When practiced properly, this technique reveals not only your light but also what you've hidden, even from yourself. That's why many traditions warn that this practice can be dangerous for beginners. Because facing your soul honestly requires spiritual maturity, not measured by years, but by your willingness to face the truth. At this point, those who practice deeply often enter what can be called a conscious trance. This isn't the trance psychology talks about, losing yourself or entering hypnotic states. It's an expanded awareness. The soul takes charge of what you perceive. You sense your body, but you also notice your surroundings from a slight distance. You think, but thought no longer controls you. It's like your consciousness steps back just a bit from your ego. From this quiet space, everything gains new meaning. Emotions become clearer. Perception widens. Time feels loose. Sudden intuitions arise without logical cause. And memories from past lives or ancestors appear, knowledge you never studied but seem to carry with you. This is the deepest part of the technique. It's no longer about practicing, but about living in this state. You begin to live from a new center, no longer wearing masks, but acting from your true self. Decisions become clearer, relationships more honest, and fears less intense. And here's the paradox: the soul doesn't learn who it is. It remembers. This memory isn't a picture or a story, but a steady vibration that feels like home. This is where the most sacred thing happens: the soul settles. Once that happens, nothing is the same. Your body stays. Life continues. But something inside you has awakened and will never sleep again. And this is why the technique was considered forbidden. Not because it's dangerous for you, but because it threatens everything that kept you asleep. Awakening isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous practice. Even a brief moment of deep inner revelation doesn't mean you'll automatically live in that state. The technique we've discussed isn't just a spiritual experience, it's a compass for everyday life. Bringing it into your daily routine transforms seekers into wise ones, learners into teachers, and mundane activities into rituals. We're not talking about strict rules here, but living principles, paths that, when followed with intention and persistence, awaken and sustain remembrance, even in the busiest parts of life. True spiritual power isn't about lighting you up in a quiet cave. It's about staying awake amid all the noise. First, practice active silence. The soul remembers best in silence. Not just the absence of sound, but a silence of full, undivided attention. Take a few minutes each day, no matter how brief, to simply be with yourself. Don't seek anything. Don't expect visions. Just breathe, observe, and allow. This time isn't just rest. It's a sanctuary. It's where the echo of your true name begins to come through clearly. Second, turn your actions into ceremony. One key to this technique is making your everyday actions a form of presence. Eating, walking, talking, seeing, if you perform these from your center, they become acts of remembrance. Every gesture becomes an offering, every word an invitation. Ask yourself, am I acting from a mask or from my soul? When you live from your soul, even the small things become sacred, keeping your remembrance alive. Third, be mindful of what you feed your mind. Your soul doesn't forget, but your mind can bury that memory under a flood of distractions. What do you watch? What conversations do you engage in? What images do you repeat? This technique teaches that everything entering through your senses shapes your inner vibration. That vibration is like a temple where your soul's memory shows up. Clean your environment. Tend to your attention like a skilled alchemist tending a fire. Fourth, speak less and speak from a deeper place. Don't just repeat what you've read or use others' words. Don't talk out of habit. When you speak, let your voice come from where your soul lives. Words spoken from remembrance have the power to awaken others. Let your voice be a channel not for ideas, but for resonance. Fifth, act as if you already know who you are, even if you haven't fully remembered yet. Live as if you have, not to pretend, but to tune in. The soul doesn't reveal itself when there's constant doubt. It shows up when it sees you willing to live true to who you really are, even before you fully understand it. Walk as if you carry an ancient legacy inside you. Love as if you've loved for centuries. And remember, remembering doesn't come from searching. It comes through vibration. For centuries, we've been told that awakening is hard. That the soul is a mystery we can't understand, and that knowing who we truly are is a privilege reserved for a few. But that's not true. The most forbidden truth isn't complicated. It's simple, direct, close, and, most of all, it's what those who want you to stay asleep fear the most. The journey we've started together isn't just a collection of ideas. It's a map, a signal, a torch for those who sense there's something more. Something beyond the name you say every day. Beyond the role you play. Beyond the story you've been told about yourself. You're not that. You never were. You are a vibrant part of eternal consciousness, a note in a cosmic symphony still playing. Your ancient memory dressed in the present. And you forgot. We all forgot. But here's the key, you can remember. The technique we discussed isn't a new invention. It's not a secret formula being sold like a product. It's a reflection of what has always been inside you. It's the reawakening of primal memory. Most importantly, you don't need to search for it outside. You don't need gurus or to be perfect. You just need to return to your center, quiet the noise, and allow your soul, full of infinite wisdom, to show you what it's always known. Remembering who you are doesn't just change how you think, it changes how you see the world. You stop seeing enemies and start seeing mirrors. You stop fearing the future and start honoring it. You stop repeating broken stories and start writing from the truth. When that truth comes alive, everything changes. You stop needing approval from others because you're connected to something greater. You stop needing all the answers because your silence has become wise. You stop chasing love because you realize you are love. This isn't an empty promise. It's an invitation. An invitation that requires courage to accept. The soul's path of remembering is beautiful, but not always comfortable. It strips away everything that isn't you, rebuilds you, and puts you face to face with what you've hidden, so you can choose who you really are. If this message resonates with you, if something inside you stirs, if a part of you says, yes, this is for me, don't let your mind extinguish that spark. Subscribe to this channel. If this video touched your core, hit like. Share it with anyone who needs to remember, because there's no revolution greater than an awakened soul. If you do, others will follow. And without violence, dogma, or forced religion, the world will begin to change from the inside out. From the place where everything began, remembrance. You're not here to learn. You're here to remember. And that remembering has already begun.